Lastly, we're going to look at a few more strategies, mnemonic strategies, cognitive learning strategies, and then technological applications. In other words, what apps are out there. So mnemonic strategies first is strategy training, recoded into a keyword that sounds similar to the target word, familiar to the student, and can be easily pictured. So for instance, if you're working on a word and you're trying to use a mnemonic strategy to teach the word, you might say, if you're teaching the word forte, which means loud, you tell them to remember the word fort. And then you give them something to relate to that word. The student, you say, hey, remember forte means loud. Think of the word fort. The guns at the fort are loud. Forte is loud. Your teachers probably did this. I can think of mnemonic devices to help me remember the rainbow colors, right? Like Roy G. Biv, or a song to remember what order the planets are from the sun. So that would be a type of mnemonic strategy. Those are great. Anything to help them make connections to something they already have in their memory is going to make it stick quicker and stick easier for them. So that'd be an example of mnemonic strategies when teaching language. Next, we look at cognitive learning strategies. So these are kind of specific, but it's like what we just did. Semantic feature strategy, connecting important ideas and related vocabulary. So you might develop a definition and discuss how this definition is related to ideas from the text. So just trying to, again, help them connect what they don't know with what they do know, so what the new information will stick. And then teaching morphological markers, and they call it morphological analysis, but this is when we teach kids prefixes and suffixes and root words. I don't know. I remember doing that. I'm not a teacher in a regular education classroom. I assume they still do that, but when you learn that, if you add "u" into the beginning of a word, it means not, like believable versus unbelievable, deliverable versus undeliverable, and teaching that prefix to help kids learn how to understand a lot of words. I think that sometimes there's this misconception that that's like too technical for kids with disabilities, but there's a surprising amount of research and recommendation that students with disabilities also get that kind of training, that kind of morphological analysis strategy training when they're learning vocabulary. So I would definitely say try it. Lastly, just consider technological applications. Things like speech recognition, that apps and stuff that can translate spoken words to text on their iPad or computer screen, can improve word recognition, spelling, reading comprehension, and phonological processing. We see this as a modification, actually an accommodation on IEPs. I know lots of kids around second grade when they started doing more writing, where the teachers would let them use their iPads to just say the word so they could get it spelled correctly. So there's all kinds of applications of how you can use speech recognition. And then podcasts. It's kind of one of those things, is reaching in a way they want to be reached, and podcasts are the thing, and so if that helps them, listening to illustrations of the word with text and a voiceover explanation through some kind of auditory means like a podcast, then try it. I have also included a graphic organizer, if you wanted to go through and kind of list for yourself some apps. It should not be hard to get on your phone and look up some apps for each different area. And I would just highly encourage you to take the time to do that now, because I think, when you go to teach, you'll be glad you have that, and heaven knows there'll be more apps by then. But there are some really good free apps out there to help in these areas. And it wouldn't just help with kids with ADHD necessarily, or learning disability, even though you'll work with many of those children. So anyway, I wanted to include that. If you wanted to print it off or make one yourself, I think it'd be really handy for you. So that's all for Chapter 7. And I'm going to jump into Chapter 8.